We love Omarion Hampton's game and believe that he could have the best rookie running back season since LT, and we have UNC expert Isaac Schade on to tell you exactly why he's special.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Droegemeier, and we've been covering the Chargers now for 9 seasons together, but it's our 7th year as the host of the Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day. Thank you to the everydayers out there for making us your first listen. To make sure that you never miss the show, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from, especially so you don't miss special guest episodes like the one that we have today. But we're going to start with why we think Omarion Hampton, even though the Chargers have drafted several first-round running backs since him, could have the best rookie running back season since the GOAT, LaDainian Tomlinson. And then we'll talk to Isaac Schade, the host of Locked On Tar Heels, to talk about exactly why he loved Omarion Hampton, exactly what makes him special, why he thinks he's a perfect fit for what Jim Harbaugh wants to do. But today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. But David, this is something that bringing Isaac Schade on actually kind of made us think about a little bit, which is just, man, it feels like Omarion Hampton, considering kind of maybe the struggles of some of the running backs since LaDainian Tomlinson, could have the best season since him, right?
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to have a LaDainian Tomlinson season because he's a dude that put up 1,200 rushing yards and 1,500 yards from scrimmage as a rookie. And I don't think we're going to put those expectations on Omarion Hampton's broad shoulders. But I think he could do it, David. I definitely think he has the talent to do it. Both of those guys got banged up in their first season as well when talking about the other guys not named LaDainian Tomlinson they've taken in the first round, being Melvin Gordon and Ryan Matthews. And we were also hyped about those guys when the Chargers took them once upon a time too. But I do think that the biggest difference is that Hampton, unlike Ryan Matthews, unlike Melvin Gordon, he wasn't a desperation pick, right? Like the Chargers felt like he was the best player available, and they only took him because they thought that talent. And I do think that even though those other guys were drafted before him, LaDainian at 5th overall, then you have Ryan Matthews at 12th overall, and then trading up for Melvin Gordon at 15 overall. I do think that with these guys, like, it's a different era. So, like, just because he was drafted later doesn't mean he's not as talented as those guys, because he put up very similarly impressive, dominant seasons. But, man, like, if you're talking about 700 rushing yards, 850 yards from scrimmage, like, I think that is absolutely attainable for Omarion Hampton as a rookie.
I think so, too. I mean, especially with his running style, with how physical he is, with, his ability to catch the ball to the backfield and be kind of an asset in that, avenue, which we know is really not something that the Chargers, at least under Greg Roman and his offense, didn't really see very much at all. And maybe that's just because they didn't really like the pass catching options that they had available. And now with Omarion Hampton coming, bringing his unique skill set and his physicality and just kind of very well-rounded game to the table, I don't think it's out of the question at all to, rack up about 750 rushing yards and, maybe throw in, about 200 passing yards, because that's essentially what it would take to kind of supersede what Ryan Matthews and Melvin Gordon, the other first-round running back picks since LaDainian Tomlinson, on this list.
And I think the hard thing will be just how many touches he gets, because we'll talk about Najee Harris, and none of those guys were splitting a backfield with a running back the caliber of Najee Harris. And I don't think he's going to have as many rushing attempts as Melvin Gordon, but I think he absolutely will have a more efficient season than Melvin Gordon did as a rookie.
Yeah, I mean, Melvin Gordon, unfortunately, had a rough rookie season. I mean, we're talking about 3.5 yards per carry and 0 touchdowns. I forgot all about that, and when I went back to research it, I got mad all over again. 0 touchdowns rushing, 0 touchdowns receiving, and that's for coming in as a first round pick and being traded up for to produce 0 touchdowns was a gigantic alarm bell saying, oh no, this was a really start of a bad pick here. So as long as Omarion Hampton is able to get into the end zone at a higher clip and make the most of his touches, I think, what he brings to the table, along with, the improvements on the offensive line, I think that we can definitely see Omarion Hampton with his skill set be a little more productive than Melvin Gordon in his rookie season.
Yeah, it's interesting. He played 14 games, so he did miss a couple of games, and he had 184 carries. And I don't think that Omarion Hampton is going to hit that number specifically. But when you're only averaging 3.5 yards per attempt, it ends up being 641 yards, which doesn't feel crazy, right? Like, it really doesn't feel crazy. If he averaged, 4.5 yards per attempt, you'd only really need him to have less than 150 carries, and he could still put up numbers bigger than that. But I think the other alarming thing, 6 fumbles, which, as we're going to talk about with Isaac Schade later, ball security, one of the biggest, feathers in the cap of Omarion Hampton. But let's talk about Ryan Matthews, because I was very hyped about Ryan Matthews, and Ryan Matthews was good. Yeah. The biggest thing is he just missed time. 158 carries, 678 yards, 7 touchdowns, so 7 more than Melvin Gordon had, at 4.3 yards per carry. That's an efficient season.
That's really good.
Added on 145 receiving yards for 823 total yards, but also 5 fumbles. Well, I mean, those dudes combined for 11 fumbles as a rookie. So if Omarion Hampton can just cut that number down, he's going to have a good chance. But I think 678 yards, because, like, if he had played the full season, he's probably pushing 1,000 yards, and I might not think that Omarion Hampton could surpass it. But 678, 823 total yards, I think it'll be close, right? And, I mean, Ryan Matthews was filling in the shoes of LaDainian Tomlinson when he took over. I think that he could even surpass that potentially.
I think he could definitely get that done. I mean, I think we're going to have to worry about what the kind of the carry dispersion is going to be, because obviously Najee Harris is coming in as a true kind of, every down type of running back. But, whenever you bring anybody in the first round, especially at this, this particular position, they're always going to be expected to come in and produce right away. I mean, nothing's going to be handed to him, but I think his skill set and his talent is going to speak so loud, as Jim Harbaugh likes to say, that he's not going to have to say anything. He's going to earn his stripes, earn his carries, and I think that's going to, we already know with Greg Roman, the way he likes to likes to operate, that he's going to go with the hot hand. He's going to go with the guy that's producing. So that could turn into games where, maybe it was 10 to 15 carries. That could easily turn into, 20 to 25 if he's the one that is really toting the rock and having that production that you're looking for.
And a lot of this is going to have to do with just how much improved the Chargers running game is, right? Because if you're not working well offensively and you're getting down in these games, you're not going to be able to run the ball enough. But true. I do think the part of it, like, Ryan Matthews probably had a better offensive line than, potentially a better offensive line than the one that Omarion Hampton's going to have this year. Melvin Gordon didn't. I mean, he had a worse offensive line than, Omarion Hampton is going to have. So he does have that going for him. The Chargers obviously brought in Mekhi Becton. That right side should be able to move people enough to give him a rushing lane. And he doesn't need much because of his explosivity. But it really will just come down to, how many carries will he get? How quickly can he become the main ball carrier? Because, I mean, Najee Harris, David, is coming off a 4 consecutive 1,000-yard season. So a lot of, if he can be that best rookie running back since LT, will just be about, hey, how quickly can you come take that spot? And how often are the Chargers going to be able to run the football?
Yeah, and we know it's not going to be, something that's not fixed into the game plan with Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman.
They want to do it.
They want to run the ball. They want to impose their will from the beginning. And they want to beat the daylights out of you, drag you into the deep water, and drown you with the running game. That's why they go get a Mekhi Becton. That's why they drafted Joe Alt. That's why they get these gigantic monsters, so that they can wear on these defenses, smother them, take their will, and go take the victory. That's what this Omarion Hampton pick is about, is trying to go take their wills and go take those W's.
And I think the hard thing is both these guys are so durable, right? I mean, even as backup last year, Gus Edwards, as clearly the less efficient running back, finished with 101 carries, and he missed 6 games. Had he not, I mean, you're talking about a guy that probably would have got 120, 130 carries. If you give that to Omarion Hampton, I think he has the best rookie running back season since LaDainian Tomlinson. So, especially with the durability, with the likelihood that he probably won't miss games, and also the fact that he won't fumble, 5 times, hopefully, as
That's
a
a big
rookie.
one.
And the Chargers, obviously were great in ball security last season. That's a big focus for them. Man, I think he could really do it, especially because of the disappointing seasons of the last 2 running backs the Chargers drafted in the first round, either due to just missing games or just a straight up inefficient season. In the case of Melvin Gordon with 0 touchdowns. But we have someone who has watched every single snap that Omarion Hampton has taken, and that is Isaac Schade, the host of Locked On Tar Heels, who's going to tell us exactly why Omarion Hampton is special and why he thinks he's going to be a perfect fit with Jim Harbaugh, because he has absolutely no ego. So we're getting into all that and more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action, and FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. There's a lot going on in the NBA right now, and there's a lot of action as the Celtics try to keep their season alive without Jason Tatum. And also you have the teams in the West that are going to be fighting to get to the Western Conference Finals. But I'm also watching the Stanley Cup playoffs as well. And I'm riding with my Panthers to go and keep the Toronto Maple Leafs as one of the cursed franchises in all of sports, right? It feels like they're crumbling. Panthers are right now minus 144 to get the win, which I like, but you could also get them at plus 172 if you take them at minus 1.5 goals and hope for that empty netter at the end. So if you're new to FanDuel, it's a perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, guys, we told you we had a very special guest, and here he is. We have Isaac Schade, who is the host of the Locked On Tar Heels podcast and also the host of the Locked On College Basketball podcast, one of the best college hosts on the network. And we were so excited after he did a little short for us on YouTube about Omarion Hampton and what he can bring to the table. We were like, we have to have this guy on, and it's one of the things we love to do during the offseason is get the people who have watched every game and get the people who are college experts on the players the Chargers drafted. And of course, their first round pick was Omarion Hampton, and he is one of the guys that got us really excited about it. Isaac, thank you so much for coming on, man. I know it's always a busy time in the Locked On college world, so thank you for making some time for us today.
Oh, man, it's my pleasure, fellas. I'm excited to be here. I've had some Austin Eckler on my fantasy team in the days, and so let's get after it.
Man, with the way that dude gets around, I'm surprised you never had Austin Eckler just on your podcast because of how many shows I've seen that dude on as far as the media goes.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Oh, dude, yeah. I mean, he was the first guest that first Chargers player that actually ever came on the show. So shout out to Austin Eckler. But we're talking about a different running back today, and we brought you on for one very specific reason, and it's to get into the nitty-gritty of Omarion Hampton, who we both love. The Chargers signed Najee Harris, so we weren't sure how much running back was going to be on their radar in round 1. But with the way that the board fell to them, we really liked this selection. I mean, especially when we kind of the whole time thought he was going to be a Denver Bronco, which would have been really a lot worse to have, to watch him, twice a year in an opposing team's jersey. Now also you get the Ashton Genty and Omarion Hampton AFC West rivalry that will sprout from this. But you knew he was going to be drafted very early, and you didn't know where he was going to go. What was your reaction when you saw that not only he ended up being a first-round pick, which is pretty cool, but that he was also going to play for someone who loves to run the football like Jim Harbaugh does?
Oh, boys, that made me elated. I was like, it took me a second, though, to process that because the Harbaugh of it is so new still, And so I was like, and I think I was also, as you said, I think I was still kind of shell-shocked that he didn't go to the Broncos, who had taken another Carolina running back, Javonte Williams, a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I also, though, kind of loved it because my best friend is a Broncos fan. And I was like, oh, Omarion is going to terrorize you, Elijah Dowling. Take that, right? And but then it clicked, and I was like, oh, he's going to be in a Jim Harbaugh scheme. Like, give me this for Omarion all day week. This dude wants the ball as often as you will give it to him and then some. And so it's like this, I just feel like it is a perfect match of coach and back. And I'm like giddy thinking about it.
Hey, we all knew that Jim Harbaugh is a big proponent of the running game and that he had to get his next number one guy. So, and you don't see a lot of players at the collegiate level that have multiple 1,500 yard and 15 touchdown seasons. Yeah. Those are gigantic numbers and they definitely speak for themselves. But for some Charger fans who don't get to watch every North Carolina football game, how would you describe his rushing style?
Yeah, I mean, you said it, David. He and Taj Brooks from Texas Tech, the only two players in FBS to have 1,500 plus yards each of the last 2 years. I mean, it's insane what he's done. I think the singular thing that I love more than anything about Omarion Hampton is he's like a pinball machine. It's like dudes are just bouncing off of him. His yards after contact, it's almost laughable how like video game level. Obviously, that's at the college level. It's not going to translate quite that much at the NFL, but backs of that nature, it's going to be there some. And so when I think about everything he does, and he's one of those like get stronger as the game goes on kind of backs, right? Like I know that's such a cliche thing, but it really is true of Omarion Hampton, who is a true, legit, honest to goodness 3-down bell cow back.
Yeah, and the thing is, like with that specifically, and really growing as the game goes, it's one of those things that somebody like a Jim Harbaugh really loves to see. But I also would say it's a finishing type of player, right? Because I think another thing you talked about, just the pinball nature of him. I know Brian Baldinger obviously works for NFL Network and is a great NFL analyst, had a video talking about and breaking down Omarion Hampton's game. And there was one time when he got hit and the angle that he was to the ground, like if you just saw the still shot of it, you'd be like, there's just no way he's not on the ground after this, right?
Yeah.
And somehow he stayed up and turned it into a big chunk play. So what was that like, having someone in the North Carolina offense over the last couple of years that you knew, hey, if we get a lead going into the fourth quarter, this is our hammer. This is the guy that we're going to hand the ball to, and he's going to finish this game, and we're going to end this in victory formation on our own terms.
I'm sorry, Daniel. Did you say lead going into the fourth quarter? I'm unfamiliar with such a thing.
I said the last couple years.
and that's what makes it all the more impressive, because Omarion's freshman and sophomore years, obviously he had Droegemeier, who's now the Patriots quarterback, which is funny. Basically, he and Coach Belichick just traded chairs.
Yes.
And but then this past year, he is this running back with a revolving door of quarterbacks in front of him, and everyone's loading the box because North Carolina's defense has been a sieve. I don't know how you say that word, whatever it is, the past several years. And so it's just like everyone loads up on Omarion Hampton, but it just doesn't matter because this dude just goes out, and because of his physicality, because of his ability to control his body, which is a unique, like a lot of those bowling ball kind of guys, it's just like, and then they're down, right? But with Omarion, he really does, as you said, Daniel, have the ability to bounce back when you think he's down and done and gone. Like he's the kind of player where the second you as a defender get lax and don't finish your tackle all the way to the ground, and it's like, did I get your knee down? Yes, check, I can move on. If you don't do that, he's gone and you're done. That's what Omarion does. And it's not like you're stripping the ball or taking it away from him. Guys, in 3 years, 38 games, he had just 2 lost fumbles his entire career. Ironically enough, in the same game against Clemson his sophomore year. So he hasn't fumbled since November 18th of 2023.
That's nuts.
That's music to Jim Harbaugh's ears right there.
Right? What are we doing? Come on. I love it. and then go ahead. Sorry.
No, please.
I was just going to say, you talked about Najee Harris, and I think people might at first be like, really? Is it like, as you said, it's like they probably won't look running back because Najee. He's another guy I had on my fantasy team a couple years ago, his rookie year in Pittsburgh there. And it's seeing what he's been able to do and the combo with Omarion, because here's the thing with Omarion. The ego is gone. There is no, like, and I don't mean he had it and it's gone. I just mean there never was. And so he's not going to be like, I got to get my carries. He's going to be like, Najee Harris, bro, you are a dude and I love running with you in the backfield. Let's tap out when it's your turn. I'll come back in when you're like, let's be guys together. I just love the humility with which all he cares about is winning. And if that means fewer carries for me today because Najee's running wild, so be it. I just want to win. And I think that just screams Jim Harbaugh to me.
Jim Harbaugh, one of his mottos is if you love football, then you are going to love playing for me. And that's absolutely all about Jim Harbaugh. That's what he loves there.
We have more to get into with host of Locked On Tar Heels, Isaac Schade, including the most underrated part of Omarion Hampton's game and how the Bill Belichick coaching experience has gone after we thought the Chargers might get him only a couple years ago, and more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast.
And, to be honest here, do you think there's a part of his game that's kind of the most underrated or maybe not talked about enough when breaking down his game?
I think it's pass pro. I think we get so enamored with his ability to bounce off defenders, to not go down, with his growing role in the pass catching game, that we forget, like, if you're because of his humility, because of his desire to win, if the play call is for me to stay in and chip and then leak out, or if the play, like if I'm just staying in period, so be it. If that keeps us upright and completes passes or whatever we got to do, and we're moving the chains or getting 6, awesome. That's great. And so I think perhaps it's the more undersold side of what a running back is asked to do, that he delights in. But it's just so like, I think about his person. Are y'all SNL guys at all?
Yeah, I'm very familiar for sure.
Okay. Do you remember the Rihanna sketch with Shy Ronnie? When she's like, Shy Ronnie,
yeah.
Because this guy, he's like a rapper and he's kind of whispering the whole time. Like, that's Omarion Hampton. He won't speak up ever. He's just like, he goes out and does a job and goes home. Right. And that's who, but he's just like, okay, here we go. We got it. Right. And so it's just consummate locker room guy. You guys, you're going to love him.
And it makes a lot of sense how, a player like that would really get to this coaching staff and have them be like, okay, well, this is that kind of guy. This is the guy that we're looking for. And to your point, when he was asked just right after being drafted about sharing a backfield with Najee Harris, he's like, man, I think we can be special, right? It's not about, hey, I'm going to go break rookie records or anything like that. It's about, hey, as a group, as a rushing unit, we're going to do some special things together. But I'm glad you did bring up the pass game part of it, because I think that is one of the more underrated aspects of his game, and also just one of the more underused parts of the Chargers offense last year. They didn't have a huge they didn't have huge production as far as their running backs catching balls out of the backfield last year. And I think that's why you hear someone like Joe Ortiz, the Chargers general manager, saying, hey, he is a 4-down back. He's not a 3-down back. He's a 4-down back. But you got to get out there on those downs by what you do in pass protection. Like, that's it. That's one of the biggest things that running backs in college struggle when they get to the next level. But do you think maybe also just his ability to catch the ball out of the backfield is something that will help him eventually just be that full 3 or 4-down back at the next level?
I really do. Like, just even looking at his pass catching numbers and how they evolved and grew each of his 3 years in Chapel Hill. His first year just wasn't used much. 6 receptions, 40 yards, 1 tutty, and 3 yards per game, basically. But then his sophomore year, 22 receptions, 222 yards, and a touchdown. Last year, 38 receptions, 373 yards, and the yards per reception keeps growing from 6 to 7 to 10, right? Yards per game, 3 to 17 to 31. And it's just like, you just see the evolution of this kid who just came from high school. Is just like, I'm running over everyone, but he's got the hands and he can do it. And he's a guy that he will take his lumps, because all rookies do, right? Like, that is a reality. Let's not pretend that everything's going to be sunshine and roses, but he's going to study his butt off and learn the routes he needs to learn and the calls he needs to learn and be ready to go. And if and when he messes up, yes, sir, I'll get it next time. Let's move on, right? Like, that's what I'm looking for with that. But I really like because I didn't think of him as a pass catcher when he first came to Chapel Hill. But then that became a weapon that Carolina utilized well, because it's what do we got to do to get the ball in the hands of the best player of the 22 on the field?
Yeah, 100%. And Omarion Hampton absolutely was that guy for the Tar Heels offense, no question. the last 2 seasons of Omarion Hampton was awesome. I mean, like I just said, for the Tar Heels, and it didn't take you very long to be able to watch him to see how successful he was going to be. And I'm sure Hampton was on your radar before he ever touched the field, but was there a specific game you remember where you realized he was going to be special?
There were individual moments.
Okay, yeah.
Early in his freshman year, but one that really stood out to me was Carolina played his sophomore year. I think it was the weekend after Labor Day. It was like early September against App State, and a team Carolina should have demolished, but whatever, is fine. And he ran wild for 234 yards. And I was just like, it was an overtime game, right? And in college, for those who are only NFL people, college overtime stats count for some dumb. I don't know. It's a whole weird thing.
That is weird, yeah.
But it was just like, you're just still going, right? Like your body should be breaking down by this point, and it just wasn't. And yes, I know it was a Sunbelt team and it wasn't an FBS level team, but it was just like, oh my, because his freshman year, he came in a little bit late. There was a very deep running back stable. It was like he was one of 5-6 guys. And so started to get some of those reps. But then coming into a sophomore year was like, it's got to be you. It's got to be O. And that guy, I think it was like the second game of the season. And he just ran wild. And it was like, here we go. This is it.
You nailed it. Double overtime game against Appalachian State. 26 carries, 234 yards, and 3 touchdowns. And his second game starting, the second game of his sophomore season. I mean, I think that's probably a game that would turn some heads and be like, oh, hey, this Omarion Hampton kid, we might have something here. But it's really funny talking to you specifically because after the 2023 season, it was really unclear who the Chargers would hire as their head coach, especially because at that point, Jim Harbaugh was coming off of a national championship with Michigan, right? There was no guarantee that he was going to leave. And there was a lot of big names available. Let's remember, Mike Vrabel was out there. Jim Harbaugh was a potential guy. Pete Carroll had just gotten let go from Seattle. But there's also Bill Belichick, a.k.a. the best coach of all time, in my opinion, at the NFL level, right? And there was a contingent of Chargers fans that wanted Bill Belichick to be the Chargers head coach. And in a parallel timeline, he is the Chargers head coach. But now he's the Tar Heels head coach. How has the Bill Belichick head coaching experience gone for you so far?
Well, I would love that alternate timeline because then I would not have to be uttering the name Jordan Hudson over and over right now. Like Mac Brown, I love that man with every fiber of my being. My wife is a Longhorn, and so he's been part of our family's life for a long time. He's just one of the kindest, most warm and great people. Like just one of the, like, I barely have been around him a couple of times, and hey, Isaac, how like that kind of thing, right? Just love it.
So cool.
The way the North Carolina locker room is right now, and the way the practices run is so night and day different. Lombardi comes in, the GM, right, from day one, and says, we are going to be the extra, like the 33rd NFL team, basically, is how we're going to run this thing. And they have. And some guys have tucked their tail between their legs and run off screaming for mama, right? And that's what the transfer portal allows to happen. But the kind of the wild angle of the Bill Belichick era is that every national media wants to find some kind of wrinkle or thing that's going to bring him down. Yeah. I don't know why it is. Maybe it's just like, the Yankees, the Patriots, that Lakers, that whole thing. It's like, we want to bring down what's great.
I hate him.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's like,
we definitely did.
Look, I grew up in Atlanta. I'm a massive Braves fan. I'm a massive Falcons fan. 28-3 haunts my life. And now that guy is my head coach. So there we go. But it's like the way he is running things, and I'm so intrigued with what's going to happen when they kick off against TCU. They've got a standalone game on Labor Day weekend. And it's going to be interesting. I'm very interested to see. And the whole Jordan Hudson thing, if Carolina wins and has a good year, I don't think it's going to be much of a story. But if they win 2 games, Oh, we told you. We saw it coming. That distraction, right? And so just the narratives. I've never seen so many narratives like I have with Bill Belichick at the helm of the North Carolina Tar Heels.
Man, it's so crazy. I mean, I can only imagine being in your shoes as a fellow kind of Locked On host, doing this every day, with just all of the things that you hear every day. And I mean, you heard it here first from Isaac Schade. If Bill Belichick was the Chargers head coach, Jordan Hudson would currently be the president of football operations. So, I mean, it's crazy to see it now, man, because, I mean, we weren't a big fans of, them potentially hiring Bill Belichick just because, I mean, there was the Mac Jones kind of debacle and everything kind of fell apart in New England. It's like, I don't know if I want that dude around my young kind of superstar quarterback, but you could have never guessed that this is the way it was going to go. But, hey, for all things Jordan Hudson, you know who to go to, Isaac Schade. No, but covering all things in the Tar Heel Nation. We really appreciate you coming on today to hype us up about Omarion Hampton. We are very, very excited about him, and I think the fans will have an extra level of excitement now that you were able to come on and give us a little background on just what made him so special in his time at North Carolina. So you guys can find him every single day because, it is your team every day, Locked On Tar Heels, and also Locked On College Basketball, and I know we have some fans of that in the audience. So make sure you guys check out Isaac Schade. He does a really awesome job. Thank you so much again for your time today, man.
My pleasure, fellas. Thanks for having me.
Another special thank you to Isaac Schade, who is covering all North Carolina sports right now. So for him to make the time to come on today's show, I really, really appreciate it. If you know any North Carolina fans or you want to keep up with college basketball, make sure you guys give him a follow. And make sure you guys are back here tomorrow because it was a great special guest today. Tomorrow, more than likely, a live schedule reaction show because the NFL is releasing their schedule tomorrow night, and we're planning on being here live with you guys to react to it. So to make sure you don't miss it, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from. And you can also make sure you don't miss it by following us on all of our social media at Locked On LAC on Twitter, at Locked On Chargers on Instagram, and our Locked On Chargers Facebook page because we will be blasting it out tomorrow when that schedule comes out and we see the best social media team in the business, I'm sure, break the internet once again with their schedule release. So we're very excited to be here with you guys for that tomorrow. Make sure you guys don't miss it. But until then, take it easy and go Bolts.